We have seen an increased level of spending on infrastructure projects to support the growth in real estate and other development projects, and that's been growing at an impressive rate, reaching around $160 billion worth of projects awarded in 2024 only for infrastructure related purposes. And that over the past 5 years has accumulated to above $380 billion. All of this will be needed to support the increased level of activity, the increased population, the increased traffic. So you see major roads and infrastructure, electricity and water projects. You see also district cooling projects. These are done through a number of private entities as well as government-related entities. There is a whole host of different structures for financing infrastructure projects, and it all depends on the type and purpose of that project. You have captive projects that are non-income generating, the basic essentials like the roads and basic planning projects. These are directly funded by the government, and as you progress through the complexity and commercial type of different projects, we can introduce different financing structures. You see a lot of project finance, you see ECA-backed financing, you see now PPP is gaining more traction year over year. So there are different kinds of structures that are applied depending on the type and purpose of the project. So let's take power projects, for example. Now we've had a very fairly tried and tested structure, which is project finance that applies to IPPs and IWPPs. These projects have sort of stable and predictable cash flows. They attract a lot of investor interest, investors that are specialized in this kind of industry. So there are commercial merits to this project. There is different structures that can be put in place, which guarantees the investor's return, provide sort of an applicable or a relevant financial structures for the bank, giving them sufficient comfort about source of repayment, as well as alleviating the direct financing burden from the government. Instead of having to directly fund this project, it can be passed over to different investors and the banks. We talk about direct government funding. We can talk about whether the source of funding that the government is using, is it from the government revenues or from an external sources? And here the government has diversified resources, be it their own revenues, income, fees and fines and all of that, or the government has to resort to some borrowing at some point, depending on the growth and their own budgets and so on and so forth. The governments may resort to bank financing, may resort to issuing in the capital markets to complement their own funding sources and their own revenues to meet their capex requirement and different budgetary requirements. That's on the source of funding. When it comes to projects, infrastructure projects that are essentially sponsored by the government, it can be direct funding, as in the government is paying upfront for the project or in line with the project progress to the contractors, or there is now increased involvement from the private sector and the private investors, whether in the form of independent power producers, the IWPPs, or now with the new format of PPP that we're seeing, which is gaining increased traction, that gets the involvement of private sector investors as well as banks to complete these projects. PPP will not apply to each and every type of project. PPP means there is a private sector ownership, a private sector involvement, a private sector commitment, and this has to come with some commercial and financial reward. If there is a part of the industry or a project that has commercial merits that makes financial sense for the private sector investors, definitely they will be involved, provided there is the right legal, financial and regulatory framework to render this project feasible for the private sector. And the government on its part, would definitely have to provide the required support and guarantees and the right agreement framework to make this project ring-fenced and feasible for the private sector investors. When we say competition, we're not saying cannibalizing. So growth in Saudi will not cannibalize the growth that we've been seeing in the UAE, and it's the other way around as well. I'd rather look at the region that is growing continuously. All parts of the region are growing, attracting FDI, attracting capital, and that over the time would benefit the entire region, provided that there is the right regulatory framework, the right legal framework. So when we see growth in different parts of the GCC, it becomes a question of who is able to offer better incentives for investors, who is able to offer a healthier or a more friendly investment environment, and let the competition benefit everyone. PPP has been recently introduced and is a testament to the government's forward vision to increase the involvement of private sector and increase attracting foreign direct investment into the country across various sectors, across various types of projects. We've seen the recent change in ownership structures and ownership rules where full foreign ownership is being allowed. All of these measures, bit by bit, they have a significant impact on increasing the investment appetite in the country. And I'm sure in Saudi, various measures are being taken to promote investor appetite and increase capital deployment in the kingdom as well as in the rest of the GCC. With the growth in population and the continued success of the Dubai story and the UAE story, the government will have to look seriously at enhancing its overall infrastructure and the overall facilities that are being provided to the public to facilitate further growth in the future. We see that reflected in the spur of massive projects that are being undertaken by the government right now and over the past number of years, from enhancement and overall improvement in the road network in Dubai, the enhancement in the sewerage facilities with the new strategic sewerage system for Dubai in response to the 2024 excessive rain and downfalls. We see an upgrade in the overall storm drainage system. We see enhancement in the metro systems by adding additional capacity and additional routes. We even looking at the high-speed rail system between Abu Dhabi and Dubai, with the increased in tourist interest in the region and the tourist flow and the passengers flow through DXB. Now the new airport DWC is underway to expand the capacity. So massive investments across different sectors, and all of this is being sponsored and coordinated by the government. With growth comes opportunities, definitely. And for banks, it's up to each and every single bank to identify the opportunities and stay close to where the action is, where the development is. For us at Mashreq, and with a specific focus on public sector, with all this, continuous introduction of new projects and new infrastructure projects, we stay close to our public sector counterparts, our public sector customers, and our aim is to provide as much support as possible to be partner in the journey of growth in the UAE and wherever Mashreq has presence. And for a bank, when you're talking about infrastructure projects, banks have the opportunity to be involved in various areas of this project, be it financing the project itself through project finance or through direct funding to the government, depending on the structure, and the second leg of it to be supporting and financing the contractors from their guarantee requirements, from their working capital requirements, providing various solutions to all parties involved in terms of managing different risk elements, be it on the interest rate, on cost of commodities, on currencies, if there is anything involved. So the banks will have the opportunity to be involved in each and every step of this project and all the other projects.